The research about professional learning has shown us that sitting and listening to something once doesn't really make a change in the classroom. Our interest is what is going to have an effect on teaching in the classroom, what's going to change the experience for students.
Just that collaboration is really powerful, and you can't think it all up yourself. I like to say that I've never had an original idea. I've had many ideas spoken to me that I've put together and somehow synthesized into my own. And that's the case with every teacher. We need each other to just be that much better or that much more powerful.
Pembina Hills is engaged in inspiring education, and the authority of the ministerial order has told us that there's lots of things that need to occur. And so we've got lots of strategies that are taking place all over the jurisdiction. When we were asked about how can we help demonstrate what's taking place, how can we show how the professional learning that is occurring in our jurisdiction is impacting kids, and how is Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium a partner in that, we looked to RS Staples as an exemplar of good practice. And when I think about the curriculum redesign, there's a lot of talk about cross-curricular outcomes and so on. And what we recognize is that literacy is a key component in that. And students are going to have to be able to read in content areas and read in science and math and social studies, and they have to be able to comprehend that. That's one of the key reasons that we're so focused on the reading comprehension strategies that this group is doing right here. So it's preparing those kids to be successful, lifelong learners, regardless of what path that they choose to go on in their life.
Well, literacy is hugely important for the future. These students, we don't really know exactly what kind of a world they're going into, and so whatever skills they have, they're going to rely on them. I also see that literacy is really important in developing empathy, developing an ethical citizen, because in order to develop empathy, you have to be someone who can understand someone else's perspective. And what better way to do that than to be in the head of the narrator in a story or a novel. 10, 12 years ago, we had a literacy project in our school division, and a few of us who are still around had jumped in at that point, and we were learning about reading strategies. So ideas like having students connect or question or predict when they're reading. And my students have been using reading strategies for years. But I always felt that something was missing. And it was about a year ago when I was scrolling through Twitter that I saw this new resource coming out. And this was with the signposts. And what it does is it lets the students know when to use a strategy. So before this, I felt like the students would use a strategy indiscriminately, or some students would. They didn't know when to use the strategy, so they'd just use it wherever to comply with my request, with my expectation. Whereas now they know where to use the strategy because the signposts point that out for them. So for example, a signpost like again and again. If an author is repeating an idea over and over, they're giving you the message that this is important and that you should pay attention. So I've taught my students to note that.
The again and again signpost is when a word or a phrase is repeated again and again in the story. It shows it's very important and it means something. It will help you discover the ending or make predictions even.
You have again and again in texts all the time that aren't important, but they're starting to develop a sense of when it would be important. Another very simple one is contrast and contradiction, where if you see two opposites within a text, just stop and notice that. It's probably going to lead you to some sort of deeper meaning. So what I see happening is that students are able to read a text with deeper understanding than before.
I use signposts even when I'm not in the classroom. At home often when I'm reading, I use them just to help get a better understanding of the story. I read deeper into the story and I actually take my time and go through it instead of just skimming, reading fast.
I'd say most of my successes that I see are in the classroom. So the way that the students are approaching a text, the fact that they are digging in more deeply. And in the past, if I asked them to have a discussion about a story, they might go for 5 or 10 minutes and they might be all over the place. Whereas with signposts, it's really directing them. And so, and taking that conversation a lot deeper. So I could walk away and they should be still talking 20 minutes later.
When I sit down and have the opportunity to talk with my peers about it, I find that it just helps out a lot with my understanding of the story, the meaning of it.
This English Language Arts group, even before we had a culture of structure of collaboration, they were already collaborating. So when these guys get an idea and they seek opportunity to support that idea, I have a hard time saying, no, you don't want to shut these people down, right? So we just do whatever we can to support them, and they do fantastic things for kids. So with that passion that this group has and the developing culture of collaboration that exists, then they need resources to support them. So they've asked me at different times, you know, we want to do this, Mark, can we do this? But it's going to take some money, can we do this? And we're like, yeah, you can, because, you know, groups like Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium have grants that we get, and they say, we're using this to support implementation. Your idea is implementing the things that we want to do in inspiring education. So absolutely, I want to support you. So it's a matter of taking that passion, harnessing the culture of collaboration, and then resourcing it with the professional learning opportunities.